I'm angry at God. What should I do? How many of you have ever heard someone say this before? I'm angry at God. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've heard people say this from time to time, and maybe you are at a point in your life where you're angry at God, you're frustrated at God, you're mad at God because maybe something is going on. But let me ask you this, right? What do you do when you're angry at God? Is it a sin to be angry at God? In this video, we are going to talk about it, right? We're going to talk about what do I do when I am angry at God. Now, maybe you're living a season in your life where you're angry at God right now. Maybe things are going wrong in your life. Maybe things are going wrong from a marriage issue, right? A family issue. Maybe you're going through some financial issues, or maybe you're going through even some health issues. And it can be that maybe you are praying for a family member, or you're praying for someone to come to the feet of Jesus or to the feet of God. Or maybe you're praying for a miracle, maybe you're praying for a healing, or maybe you're praying for someone and you feel like God is not answering your petitions, God is not answering your prayer. Maybe you have prayed for a circumstance to change and that has not happened. And nothing has happened, which has led you to feel very angry at God. Now, let's be honest, right? Because sometimes we go through this, right? We go through these emotions, we go through these moments. And how many of you have ever gone through a situation before? How many of you have ever gone through a tragedy before and you've asked this question? Why God? Why God? But can I be honest with you? What you are really asking God is not why God, but you're rather asking why me, God, right? Let's be honest. Why is this happening to me? But I'm going to explain to you why we shouldn't think this way, why we shouldn't be angry at God, why we shouldn't be mad at God. And sometimes we have the mindset that nothing is ever going to happen to me. Nothing is ever going to happen in my marriage. Nothing is ever going to happen to my family. Nothing is ever going to happen to me. But you're going to have days and you're going to have seasons and you're going to have months or weeks where everything is great. But you'll also have those moments in your life when things are not going to be great. Look what the Bible says in James chapter 1, verse 2 and 3. It says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness," right? This is what God is saying, right? He says, count it in all joy, my brothers, when you go through certain trials and certain situations, right? He says, find joy in it. And I'm going to explain in this video why you should find joy in the things that are going wrong in your life. Another reason why we shouldn't think this way, I want you to hear this right now, is because God is in control. I want you to repeat this with me. God is in control. And sometimes we lose our faith and we lose our confidence and our hope in God because we think that He has lost control of the situation. We think that God has lost control of the circumstance, and we think that God has lost control of the outcome. And sometimes we think that He has no more control. He doesn't have control of the situation anymore or the outcome, that God has lost control. But God has come to remind you right now that God is in control. You know what the Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13? It says this, "No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful and He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, He will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it." Did you hear what I just said? God has provided the exit. God has provided the escape. God knows the outcome of the situation. Now, how many of you have ever asked this question? How does God feel towards me when I'm angry towards Him, right? How does God feel towards my anger or towards our anger? You know what I love about God? That throughout scriptures and throughout the Bible, we see that God didn't condemn such anger. In fact, God helped people work through their anger. God helped them navigate through their emotions. And if you take a close look at the book of Job and you read everything that Job went through, right? God reminded Job that his ways were not always understandable to men. And maybe that's why you have grown frustrated, because you don't understand his ways and you don't understand his plans. But let us not forget that the Lord's ways are higher than ours. Look what the Bible says in Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 and 9. It says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts." So did you hear what I just said, right? He is saying that his ways and his plans are higher than ours. So here's a question. Is it a sin to be angry with God? And here's the answer to that question. No, it is not. It is not a sin to be angry with God. And I know that the religious people are probably right now grinding their teeth. But let me tell you something. It's not a sin. Remember that anger is an emotion. It's an emotion that God placed inside of us. And the same way that we can be happy about something or we can be sad about something, right? Because those are emotions. Anger is also an emotion, right? But here's the key. The point is to make sure that your anger doesn't go to a level of sin. Now, the Bible says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 and 27, it says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and give no opportunity to the devil," right? So God is saying it's okay to be angry, but don't let it get to the level that you're sinning against God. See, God knows that you are human. God knows that we are human beings, which means we have different emotions and we go through different emotions. God knows that we are going to pass through anger from time to time because things may not be going the way we want it to be going. And I know that this sounds crazy, but what have I told you right now, right? To take your anger to God and express to God how you're feeling. Express your frustrations. Express how you are feeling. And trust me, he will listen to you. He will sympathize with you. And he will empathize with you. I want you to understand this. God is not mad at you. And when you think that God is mad at you because you're mad at him, or you think that God is angry at you because you're angry at him, he is not. And if you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Let's go to the Bible. Let's take a look at this story that we see in John chapter 11. It's the story of Jesus, Lazarus, Martha, and Mary, right? How many of you have ever heard of this story before? It's one of my personal favorites, right? And in a nutshell, Lazarus is a good personal friend of Jesus. He's a good friend. He's a close friend of Jesus. And out of nowhere, he gets sick. Now, his sister Martha and Mary, they send word, right? They send a message to Jesus that the one that he loves is sick, right? And maybe Martha and Mary expected God or expected Jesus to drop everything that he was doing to get to where they were at. But you see, God already knows the outcome of the situation. God already knows how this is going to play out. And God is telling you today, he knows how the situation in your life is going to play out. You know, in John chapter 11, verse 4, it says that Jesus, when Jesus heard, right, when he heard this, right, he said, "This illness will not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." So God is declaring that whatever it is that Lazarus is going through is not going to lead him to die. Now, sometimes we get frustrated because we don't understand what God is doing. How many of you have been there? I've been there, right? God, I don't understand what you're doing. Now, John chapter 11, verse 5 and 6, right? Continuing with the story. It says, "Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was at." He did not stop what he was doing, right? You figured, well, he loves his family. They're very close to Jesus. He's going to stop what they're doing. No, he actually stood there 2 days longer. Wait a minute, Jesus stood there 2 days longer? I don't understand what you're doing, Jesus. I don't understand what you're doing, God. I expected you to come to my need, to my situation, and you're taking your time. Now, things took a turn for the worse, and the Bible says that the sickness that Jesus said would not kill Lazarus actually ends up killing him. And you're probably saying Jesus contradicted himself here, But make no exception here, right? Jesus didn't contradict himself. Jesus doesn't contradict himself. God knows the outcome of the situation. Look what the Bible says in John chapter 11, verse 14 and 15. It says, "But then Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died. And for your sake, I am glad that I was not there so that you may believe, but let us go to him." Wait a minute. So you chose not to go to Lazarus when he's sick because you could have done the miracle and the healing. But now that he's dead, you want to go to him? Can I tell you this? People were thinking healing, right? People were thinking miracle, but Jesus was thinking something else. They were thinking healing, they were thinking miracles, and he was thinking resurrection. Once again, his plans are higher than our plans. His ways are higher than our ways. Now we're going to see the anger of Martha and Mary right now, right? Look what the Bible says in John chapter 11, verse 21. It says, Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you would have been here," right? I'm saying angrily, "if you would have been here, my brother would have not died." Right? John chapter 11, verse 32. Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, "Lord, if you would have been here, my brother would not have died." Right? They're basically saying, listen, when we called on to you, you should have been here. Why did you take your time? Why did you stay there 2 more days, right? I'm angry at you right now. I don't even want to see you. Let's be honest with you, because now that he's dead and he's buried, you want to come. But when he was sick in his bed, you chose not to come. And both sisters were upset at this moment. They were angry at this moment. They were frustrated at Jesus at this moment. But you see, Jesus wasn't angry with them. He sympathized with them. He empathized with them. And we see this in John chapter 11, verse 35. It says, the shortest verse of the whole Bible, Jesus wept. Jesus cried, right? He actually went through the emotions with them. And we all know how the story ended, right? At the end of the day, Jesus told those, take the rock out the way. And the Bible said that he called out to the name of Lazarus. And the Bible says that Lazarus came out. And we all knew, right? Or Jesus knew how this was going to play out. He knew the outcome of the situation. He knew the result of the situation. And he knew how everything was going to play out. You have to trust that God knows how everything in your life is going to play out. It probably caught you by surprise, but it did not catch God by surprise. So, what do I do when I'm angry with God? Well, number one, God made us with this capacity of anger. However, what we do with our anger is our responsibility. So don't take it to the level of sin. It's okay to react. It's okay to go through the emotions, but it's not okay to take that reaction to another level and sin against God, right? So be careful not to let your anger go to another level. Number two, don't be angry at God, but take your anger to God. I'm going to say that once again. Don't be angry at God, but take your anger to God. Remember, He is your Father, and you are His child. You are His son. You are His daughter. So the same way that our children are able to come to us and vent their frustrations and vent their anger when something is not going according to their standards, it's okay for us to go to God and say, God, I'm angry right now, and it's okay. He is your Father, and you are His child. It's okay to go to Him. So don't be angry at God, right? But take your anger to God. Okay, here we go. Number three, do not let your anger not make you pay attention to when God is speaking. I'm going to say that once again. Don't let your anger not make you pay attention to when God is speaking. Sometimes we're so angry at God and we're so mad at Him that we lose an opportunistic moment to hear when He is speaking to us, right? Don't let your anger cloud your ears or your judgment or your mindset, because God is going to take this moment to speak to you. It may not be His audible voice, but it may be through events in your life. It may be through other ways God is going to speak to you. So don't let your anger not make you pay attention to when God is going to speak into your life, right? And number four, trust in God. and look beyond that anger. Remember what the Bible says, right? He has plans for you. Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." Whatever it is that you are going through right now, He's not trying to harm you. He's not trying to destroy you. He has plans to give you a hope. He has plans to give you a future. He has plans to prosper you. So these are the tips that we want to give you, right? When you feel angry at God, right? God made us with the capacity to be angry, but don't take it to a level of sin. Don't be angry at God, but take your anger to God. Don't let your anger not make you pay attention to when He speaks. And number 4, trust in God and look beyond that anger. I hope that this video is able to help you navigate through your emotions and feelings and when you're angry at God, and it's going to help you understand that God is not mad at you or angry at you. When you are angry at Him, He's going to help you navigate through your emotions. Until next time, family.